Okay, perfect. It is 10:02 a.m. Central Time. We've given people the chance to kind of log in and get set up. So hopefully you were here to catch some of our intro on how to use the interface and about Q&A. Let's jump right in. Today we're going to talk about what's new in Complete View version 7 and with Salient Cloud Services. I'm Sanjay Chawla, Salient's Chief Product Officer, and I'll be your guide through today's journey. It's going to be a combination of some slides, but also a lot of demonstration. And if we get done a little bit early, all the better. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So our agenda today is going to be first talking about Complete View version 7. We've made a lot of enhancements to it since it originally became generally available, and we'll highlight some of the things that we're working on there. We've got some exciting things to showcase with Salient Cloud Services. And then lastly, probably the part I'm most excited about is we've got a sneak peek of some capabilities coming in early next year. Some of these will be available kind of mid to late January. Some of these will be available mid to late February. But either way, there's a set of really exciting capabilities coming out Q1 of next year. So before we dive into the whole version 7 thing, I think it's useful sometimes to just remind everyone just who we are here at Salient. We're a leading provider of video management software, and we pride ourselves in having an open cloud video data platform. I know that's a mouthful, but really the magic of our platform is allowing our end users and our integrators to have the freedom and flexibility to customize solutions, to have an ecosystem of technologies that they want to be able to leverage. And one of our desires is to have a platform that makes it very easy for people to not just meet their safety and security needs, but increasingly get the insights that they need from video to drive business operations and better customer experiences. So that's a little bit of who we are and just generally the direction we're headed in. And with that, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Complete View version 7. So this was officially released to the marketplace in the end of September. And there's a few highlights in case you've missed them that we'll talk about. And in the coming next, we'll talk about some other really exciting enhancements that we're going to be making to Complete View. So at a high level, Complete View version 7, it really lays the foundation for our platform going forward. And some of the really major work that we've put into it is a pretty major revamp of storage, specifically bringing about predictive storage analytics. Certainly, Salient Cloud Services and being able to connect the system up to Salient Cloud Services is a huge part of version 7. That's only available if you're on version 7. And lastly, we've made a ton of scalability and performance improvements. And some of these are subtle but so powerful. It's little things like navigating between live and playback, or clicking through items on the left-hand navigation tree. Just the responsiveness, the feel of the program. It's not sluggish. There's less of that. In fact, none of that please wait dialogue in many cases. And so it's a snappier experience is how I would describe it. And certainly when you get to larger camera counts, larger user counts, there's considerably more just improvement to the feel of the software. But of all of these, what I really want to spend a little bit of time on is on the predictive storage analytics. I don't think we talk about this quite enough. We had a few goals when doing this work. And first and foremost, we recognized the need, again, part of our ethos of making it very easy to consume our product, giving people the ability to kind of really put together a solution ecosystem that fits their specific needs. We realized we had quite an opportunity on the storage end. And one of the discoveries was that the end users and integrators that we work with really wanted more flexible, in many cases, shareable storage architectures. The idea of multiple recorders being able to write to a centralized enterprise-grade storage array. And so that's one major investment that we made, is the ability to share storage between recorders. The other related enhancement we made in terms of reliability is the ability from the recorder to send video both to the regular storage as well as to the backup location near simultaneously with hardly a few seconds delay. This is a huge improvement over the once a day backup that we've previously had in Complete View. It means it's a more reliable system. Should something unfortunate occur, your backup is going to be in sync because it was recording near continuously with the regular storage that you'd set up. The other major change that we've, and to support this flexible storage, we introduced a concept of storage pools. And a storage pool is a very simple concept. You have one for regular, backup, and archive. And all you do is you add drives to a pool. You just specify drive paths. They can be local or remote. And you can also allocate how much space you believe that recorder should have on that drive. So you can set the video space on there. And one of the other changes we made is introducing camera-based retention. You've got all these pools set up. You can stream to regular and backup simultaneously. You can share storage. That's all great. But the next key change that we made was allowing people to define retention on a per camera basis. And we'll look at the interface. We've made it very easy to mass assign these settings. So you can very quickly set a 14-day retention policy to all the cameras that are attached to a recorder or some subset of them. So you don't have to kind of worry about doing this one camera at a time. And then last but not least, probably the most exciting thing about all this is some predictive storage analytics. So we're constantly monitoring the pool, each of the pools, and we make sure that given the storage retention policies that have been defined, that we're not in trouble. And we've introduced a set of new warnings and notifications. So one of these is if we've predicted that given the storage available, that we're going to fail retention on any camera that has a defined minimum retention policy, we send an alert so that administrators can proactively address a looming storage issue before it happens. So as opposed to having a panic attack on day 29 of 30, when you realize you're not going to make 30 days of retention, maybe you can catch this 2 weeks in advance when the system recognizes that, hey, there's a bunch of space that's been consumed on this shared storage, perhaps, or in whatever the storage pool is that's being used for regular storage. And you're not going to make your retention policy. And so you can proactively address that. Another capability that we added is for regular storage pools, we introduced a concept of an overflow drive. And think of this as a, kind of a get out of jail feature where it's a drive location that normally is not written to at all. But over the weekend, let's say, when no one is more closely looking at the system, should something go awry, maybe a camera reboots and comes back on and is suddenly sending full frame rate, full resolution for some strange reason, well, not a big deal. Instead of coming back in on Monday or maybe even Sunday night, recognizing that you've got a really major problem and that you're in really big trouble, the system will start to write video to this overflow drive location if it's a way to alleviate the concern over your retention policy. And it will generate a notification saying, hey, I've had to break into this overflow drive that you've set up, and I'm starting to write video to it because I don't have a way to make good on the retention policy with what I've got. So that's another really great notification. Certainly, there are a number of others that are very interesting. It's possible to mix and match the retention policy that you set up on cameras. So it's perfectly okay to have a system where some cameras have no retention policy whatsoever, and a number of really important cameras have a minimum retention setup at least. And if we get to a point where cameras that do not have any retention policy are being cut down to just a single day of storage, we generate another notification. It's basically informing, system administrators that, hey, you've got some cameras that are maybe less important, but we've squeezed out as much storage as we possibly can from those in order to make sure that the cameras that do have a retention policy are able to maintain that retention policy. You should probably do something because you're very close to being in a state where you don't have enough storage. So these are some of the really exciting things that are driven by some of this predictive monitoring and modeling of storage. And so I'd say that's one of the most exciting things about version 7. We're going to talk about cloud. We're going to talk about what's coming new in Q1. But the other thing I want to highlight is the team spent a tremendous amount of time making version 7 very easy to adopt. And instead of highlighting some of the other more minor features, I also think it's so important to spend a moment talking about how it is actually the easiest major version to adopt from Salient. Because we did a few things that I think are out of the norm, not just for Salient, but really just for the industry as a whole. We built in a automatic migration directly into our installer. And so this is able to detect a version 6 configuration and safely migrate the database to version 7. And this is a very safe installer to run should there be any issues. It will gracefully fail. It will produce a log file for any advanced troubleshooting. So we've made that part easy, and it does so in a manner of not editing or I'll say changing the version 6 database. So should anything ever go wrong, if you're attempting the upgrade and the built-in migration that's in the installer says, you've got trouble, no harm. You'll have a perfectly functional, well-preserved version 6 system that you can keep working with. The installer does set up a separate database instance to run version 7. So that's one great kind of safety. The next is the team spent an extensive amount of time on cross compatibility. So we fully understand that it might be relatively straightforward to take a management server and get that upgraded. It's one component of the system. That with a little bit of work, it's not too bad to get clients upgraded, and so that can be done in a pretty straightforward fashion. But probably the hardest part is finding a window to take an individual recorder and get that upgraded to version 7. Yes, it's possible to mass apply or mass push bin updates to recorders, but in a lot of times you want to be careful about when you do that. You want to make sure it's happening in a window where it's not peak business hours. And one of the things we recognized is to make this much easier to adopt, it's important to give our integrators and our end users the flexibility to make the recorder upgrades as and when appropriate, because it's too much to kind of demand that all the recorders get upgraded in a huge hurry or all at once. So to that end, a version 7 management server and a version 7 desktop client are fully compatible with version 6 recorders, version 6.12 or newer recorders. So what that means is on a recorder by recorder basis or on a site by site basis, there's tremendous freedom in rolling out the upgrade and not feeling forced to just upgrade the whole system all at once in some frenzy. And so very minimal disruption. You can still keep making configuration updates. You can do all the operator investigator use cases, accessing live and recorded video, exporting. All that works with a version 7 management server, a version 7 desktop client, and a version 6.12 or newer recorder. Last but not least, we also recognize that one of the challenges to any upgrade process is licensing. And we've put together a tool that really makes licensing much easier. It's called the License Distribution Utility. It's available on our website. We'll actually look at it. But what it does is it automates the collection of license information across the system, works with any system that has a management server, so any version 5, version 6, or even version 7 system. And it generates a simple CSV that has all the information about the recorders that are part of the system, because that's really licensing ultimately takes place on each recorder. And so it's very easy to hand that CSV file to the Salient licensing team. They're able to populate that same CSV file and return it, and it can be used to mass update and mass push new license keys to all the recorders that you have in your system that are attached to that management server. And so a great way to avoid having to touch each recorder one by one. Already, it's possible to push bin updates to recorders, and with the ability to push license information ahead of time in this more automated or scalable fashion, it really does make the upgrade process that much easier. The last part is, and this is something a little bit new that we've started, is we also recognize how important it is in many cases to build a little bit of comfort playing with software before jumping into an upgrade. And we also recognize that it's not always easy to stand up demo or sandbox environments, both as an integrator and as an end user. There's just so many competing priorities that setting up some of these test environments can be a bit of a burden. So we wanted to make that a lot easier. And one of the things that we have put together is a project where it is now possible to get very real sandbox environments that are hosted by Salient. There is a request process for it, but that's a great way to play with some of the new features, evaluate the system, and it's a live system with actual cameras. And much more importantly, it's possible to take a copy of your current configuration, your management server configuration, and to import that into the version 7 sandbox environment, and just to get a sense of what your system might look like in version 7. Certainly, it won't actually be connected to your recorders or cameras or any of that, but you'll just get to make sure and validate that, hey, all of this configuration is coming over properly, that there are no issues that you're going to potentially face doing the migration. It's kind of doing a dry run, but also exposing yourself to some of the capabilities that we have in version 7. So again, another great way to de-risk this process of getting to version 7. So with that, we'll do our first demo, which is to take a look at storage management and also the license distribution utility real quick. So we'll start first with the license distribution utility. So if you go to the Salient website, we'll first talk about where you can find the license distribution utility. So on our support page, you'll be able to go to software downloads, and you'll notice that there's a tool called support tools in the list of downloads. And it's in the support tools section that you will find the license distribution utility. There's a user guide. There's also the executable itself. Now, I've gone ahead and downloaded this executable and I've run it. So that's what I've got pulled up right here. The license distribution utility. It has a UI of its own. And you would log into this just like you would your typical system. Put in your management server URL and put in your admin credentials. And once I do that, in this system, it's a fairly simple system. I've just got one recorder, but it's possible to select one or more recorders, select the type of keys that you want. So say that I want additional 7.1 license keys, and I need another 50 IP licenses. I have the ability to then apply that request to the select server. So you'll notice here, I need an upgrade key to get 7.1 and with storage pools turned on and 50 IP licenses. I'm going to press this generate license request. And so this is a 50 IP request. It will create a CSV file that encodes that request. So let's just take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to open up that spreadsheet that just got created, drag it over. So you'll notice that it creates this document that encodes the fact that we want 50 additional IP cameras. And you'll notice there's this blank column here for feature keys. It's this file that you would simply submit to Salient licensing. And what's great is if we had more than one recorder, we'd be able to make all the feature requests either for version upgrades or for additional licenses. Press one button to generate that request where you get a file, and to be able to send this off to the Salient licensing team. Salient licensing then responds back, and they actually fill out the feature key in this spreadsheet. And so I'll show you one where they were able to get that filled out for me. I made a request for 7 additional licenses, and you'll notice that I've got some feature keys there. And so what we can do is, using this exact same utility, up at the top there's a distribute licenses, and I have the ability to browse for these license files. So we'll pick this guy. And you'll notice right here, hey, I've got 7 new IP licenses. That's the request I'd made that the team had filled out, the license team had filled out, and I can go ahead and apply it. Now in this particular case, given the system, you know, this is skipped, and there's some reasons for that. But the point is, there's status information. There's the ability to mass apply these, very quickly apply these license file across your recorders. Get status information, view logs on why that happened, why that didn't. This is a demo environment, so I didn't actually want to change the licensing to it. But this is a demonstration of just how you would click around and make use of this license distribution utility to get easy license requests and also distribute licenses out. So that's the first part. Second part is, now let's actually jump into Complete View itself and look at storage pools, because we said that was another really exciting thing. You'll notice that this all lives under the storage section for each recorder. In this case, we're looking at a regular storage pool, and you'll notice there are 2 different drives that have been set up. And one of them has been set up actually as an overflow drive. There's very clear status information that we can get, so we know that, hey, our overflow, we might be in a bit of trouble there. The thing is already largely consumed. But the most exciting thing is down over here. We'll first start with a retention policy. You'll notice that the cameras in the system all have a minimum retention of 2 days. If we wanted to set a maximum retention, we could easily set a max retention, you know, maybe set that to 14 days or and we can select all and apply. So you'll notice it's possible to do that very, very quickly, and to save or push that type of config. So this is how we would very quickly mass apply these types of settings. We have the ability to also get a quick look at the predictive retention estimates. So for each camera, we can understand the 1-day and the 7-day write average. We can understand actual consumption and the projected 1 and 7-day. So we can see some of these cameras, you know, are responsible for eating up so much more of the space. Maybe there might be opportunities for tuning those cameras to have them consume a little bit less, either compression, you know, frame rate and resolution settings, whatnot. It becomes a very quick visual indicator. In between looking at the disk status and the status of these cameras and the consumption of these cameras, you can very quickly spot or identify any issues that you're having. So if you get a notification that you're going to fail retention, we've built an interface that makes it very easy to understand, do I have an issue with 1 or more of my storage disks? Or you know, one of the drives that I've set up, am I out of space? Is it offline? Or is the culprit one of the cameras? And lastly, we have this storage utilization, which gives us a prediction of both current and future state. And this is just projecting out what it will look like when the system is at steady state based on current consumption. So we've got all these cameras set up with a minimum, and so it's very clear to see we're actually at nearly that FIFO state. This is what the system will look like. So again, very powerful new interfaces that allow us to define retention policies on a per camera basis, get estimates that allow us to understand how the system is actually behaving on a per camera basis, and then project out storage utilization. And so understanding at that level, getting notifications on it, and then also understanding the status of the different drives. These are some of the really major enhancements that, again, make it very easy to set up these flexible, robust, reliable storage architectures, really treat different cameras with the right level of priority, and get predictive insight well before you run into any trouble. So with that, let's jump back in to our session. Alrighty, perfect. So next, we're going to actually transition to talking a little bit about cloud services. So again, a concept that is currently in early access. We've made quite a bit of noise. I think in previous webinars, we've done some demos of this as well. We continue to make enhancements here. So this is just a reminder of what's available with cloud services. And we'll showcase some of the updates we've made over the intervening few months that we've had this out in the marketplace in kind of an early access stage. So first and foremost, our goal with Salient Cloud Services is to really foster a better partnership between integrators and end users. And it's a way to create a win-win. Starting with end users, the benefit really of the current Salient Cloud Service offer is the ability to easily and securely access live and recorded video from any client, anytime, anywhere. And for end users that take a more active role in managing or maintaining their system, administrating it, the ability to also do that securely and remotely, and not having to burden IT with setting up VPN access, not having to remote into kind of a workstation, because those all add a little bit of added complexity. So making it just very easy to do remote administration as well. So that's one big benefit. The other benefit is a lot of customers, especially in larger systems, more I'll say controlled environments, often struggle to enable technicians to get secure remote access. If they belong to the organization, they might be able to get VPN access, but often IT is less willing to provide VPN access to technicians that don't belong to their organization. And so it can be very hard for integrators to provide secure remote service. And a lot of our end users are very keen on how they can better empower their integrators to deliver a better and higher quality of service, especially remotely. And last but not least, it's the ability to do all of this without having to ask IT to do a bunch of stuff, whether it's opening up ports, whether it's setting up VPN access. So those are the problems we're trying to solve for the customer. For integrators, one big trend we've seen is the interest level in driving a managed service offering that has a recurring revenue component that's really meant to set both themselves and the customer up for success. This notion of, hey, as your integrator, we're here to make sure that the system behaves properly, that it's properly configured, that we're there maintaining it, and we can administrate this so that it meets your needs and expectations as an end user. And as integrators are very excited about putting together these types of managed service offerings with recurring revenue, one of the challenges is, well, how do you actually deliver that without driving up operational costs? And so that's where Salient Cloud Services comes in again, because our vision is to help reduce as much as we can the truck rolls that a integrator needs to make in order to provide service, administrate a customer deployment. And so again, there's some work that we've done to really empower integrators with our cloud service offer. And as we look forward at the roadmap, there's tons more that we have in store to make that even easier for integrators or really any system administrators. So let's talk a little bit about how Salient Cloud Services itself just works, how it fits with Complete View. So most deployments look kind of like this, where everything is on a local area network of some form, whether it's a multi-site deployment or just a single site deployment. A lot of customers have environments where all the different sites are tied together by a corporate network of some kind. And so the idea is you would set up a management server somewhere on that corporate network. You'd have these recorders attached to that corporate network across the different sites. The cameras would be connected to the recorders, and then whether you're at a site or at a corporate office, so long as you're on that corporate network, you'd be able to use desktop, web, or mobile clients. Well, that's all great. The challenge really becomes, what if you're not on the corporate network? What if you're home, it's 2:17 a.m. in the morning, and you're getting a phone call that something's gone wrong, and you just want to do a quick visual verification? So this is where tools like Salient Cloud Services come in, or say you're the integrator and you're in another state and you can't drive over to one of the sites to end up on a network or kind of on site, so to speak. This is where Salient Cloud Services comes in. The first step of the process is just a registration step. There's no cost for this. This is just a perk of having a version 7 system, is that you can register. And it's actually a pretty valuable thing to do this registration, because you get access to a set of web dashboards that describe and document the deployment that you have. So all of the recorders, camera counts, product IDs, all of that kind of stuff. What's great is, this can be shared between integrator and end user. So everyone has access to just what are the assets that make up this deployment. I know today a lot of end users, a lot of integrators actually do a lot of this bookkeeping by hand, and that can get a little bit cumbersome. So the idea is by registering the system, you just get this nice asset dashboard. The next step is deciding that you actually do want the remote access service. And what's great about the paid cloud service that we've got is it doesn't change anything about how your deployment is actually configured or runs. It doesn't really impact too much of what's happening with your complete view system. It kind of layers on top. And so what that means is if you decide to sign up for the paid cloud service, it's a subscription. You can either attach it to your perpetual license. Certainly everything can be done as a subscription, but we set up a VPN configuration that connects our cloud component with the management server and recording servers that are on premise. And at that point, it's possible to use existing desktop, web, and mobile clients to remotely access the system and to do that very securely. And so this is the paid service. And what's great is if for some reason, after a year of leveraging the paid service, you decide maybe that's not the right thing for you, or you want to evaluate this. It's very easy to do that because it's not changing how your VMS is deployed on premise. Very easy to evaluate and adopt. And if you don't want this cloud service, it doesn't break anything about how your VMS operates. So it's very easy from that perspective. So what I want to showcase is just a quick highlight of what it takes to register a deployment, and then do a live demonstration of what happens on the cloud dashboards that we have, the web dashboards that we have, and showcase what that remote access really looks and feels like. So the first step to this process is registering a deployment, and that's very simple. It starts by creating an account, and you create an account like you would create an account on any other web service. Some information such as name, phone number, email address, and password. You'll then get an email asking you to verify the email address you've put in. If you verify your email address, you get asked whether you're an end user or an integrator. I promise you, this is not a trick question. If you select integrator, the workflow kind of ends right there, and someone from Salient support will reach out and do the right assessment to make sure that, yes, in fact, you're an integrator, and that we can set you up correctly. If you're an end user, you get to continue happily on in this workflow. So you press end user and you provide a little bit of information about the organization that you have. So the name of your organization, primary contact, mailing address. That's it, you're done. In 3 minutes or less, you could finish creating your account and setting up your end user organization. Next step in the process is to then connect your deployment. And this is done using the desktop client. The version 7 desktop client, there's a tab that says Cloud Services. And that email address and password that you just created, you can use that in order to register the deployment. And it really is giving the deployment a name, putting this information in, and hitting the connect button. It's really that simple. So once you do that, you will then have your system registered up to Salient Cloud, and then you can make choices on, getting your integrator connected up to it, deciding to go for the paid service or not. All of that comes afterwards, but the work inside the desktop client and with creating the account is done. That's it. This is success. So what I'd like to demo is once we have registered one or more systems, what does that look and feel like? What does that look like for the end user? What does that look like for the integrator? So we're going to jump out of here, and we're going to go to cloud.salientsys.com, and here I am as an end user, and I've registered a couple of deployments, and what I mean by that is I had more than one management server, and I had a couple of different locations, and so I was able to take each of those and register them up with Salient Cloud Services. So when I log in, the first thing I'll see is I'll see all of the different deployments that I have registered up. And you'll notice there's high-level summary information, the version effectively of the management server, the number of recorders that are contained in that deployment, license count, and whether or not remote access is enabled. And if we pick on one of these and expand it out, you'll notice that there's details on specific recorders and the version of the specific recorders, the edition, product IDs, etc. It's possible at a overall management server level, or even at an individual recorder level, to get access to further details, to be able to download a CSV of all of this configuration information. So that's great. It really helps with that bookkeeping. Again, great visibility into what the system looks like. And so that's what the dashboard looks like. Now let's talk a little bit about how, as a end user, I might enable my integrator to be connected up to my different deployments. You'll notice that some of these deployments have an integrator connected to them, and some of these they don't, and there's this connection management. So I can press this button to get into it, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the things that exist in settings. So I've got a, as an end user, certainly I can change my own profile. I'm logged in, but I can look at my organizational details and update some of this. I can invite other users into my organization here as well. But the most interesting thing is managing the connections that I have with different integrators. And again, the analogy I use is this is a little bit like LinkedIn, where end users have deployments. They, in many cases, just have a single integrator they're working with, but some larger end users have more than one integrator. And so we've built a system that makes it very easy for integrators and end users to connect with each other, again, kind of like a LinkedIn connection, through these connection requests, and then to be able to specify which deployments are managed by which integrator. Again, for some customers, all of their deployments, or they might only have one deployment, might be managed by a single integrator. But let's take a look at that process. So say that this VMS Solutions integrator is my main integrator. They manage everything I have. It's very easy for me to add additional deployments to them. So we can take these two deployments and say, yes, great, let's go ahead and add them to this integrator. And so this is how I would do that. I can also send additional connection requests to set up additional integrators. So kind of like we have this VMS Solutions, we could set up additional integrators. So let's go ahead now and take a quick look at what the integrator experience looks like. So as an integrator, when I log in, the first thing I see is I see all the different customers that I have. So this is one layer above what an end user would see. The end user is just looking at, their deployment footprint. But you'll notice here, these are the different customers that I've got, and there's high-level summary information. You can download all of this. I can break up with a customer entirely. It's called disassociate. But either way, let's drill into one of these. So we'll notice, hey, these are the systems that I have access to that belong to this customer. I think we just added this Great Lakes one. You'll notice I see the exact same information the end user sees. And part of the magic is with this remote access, there is this remote access URL that's created for any system that is set up with remote access. I can open it up really quick in the web client. And this gives me access to live or recorded video, where we're now connected into a system remotely. But even more interesting is this same URL that was generated and available to me. I can copy this in it, and I can use this in the desktop client to access the system as well. So, oh, I didn't save the config changes, so that's okay. So I can use that because I changed the camera retention policy settings, so that's what that was yelling at me about. So I can remotely connect into this system. And once I do, at this point, it's just like a demonstration of a completely desktop client, because I can go into configure, I can do live view. But effectively, the magic is this really friendly URL that allows me to remotely access the system and to securely access the system when I'm remote without having to have IT set up any infrastructure for me. So that's the magic of this remote access information. I would use the same credential that I'd use as though I was on premise, logging into that system. So the last part is, as an integrator, very similar set of things that I can manage. The only difference is, the end user has the ability to be connected to more than one integrator and assign different deployments to their integrator. Similarly, the integrator gets to see their different end users that they're managing, and they get to see the different deployments that have been shared with them. And in fact, if I've decided that for Salient systems, hey, actually, this Great Lakes deployment is it's getting spun out. We're not going to be managing it anymore. I can very easily remove that deployment from the list of deployments that I manage for that given customer. And so voila, I'm now just down to the 2 deployments that I manage for this customer. And so as an integrator, I also have the ability to look at the customers that I have and the deployments that I'm managing for them. So that's a quick 411 on Salient Cloud. There's certainly a lot more coming into this experience around better understanding health information directly from this interface, starting to see at some point some entitlement information. Today we can look at license counts, but lots of directions that we're moving in here to add more value, both to end users and to integrators. With that, let's now jump into kind of the last segment of our presentation. We'll wrap up on cloud. And so to wrap up on cloud, I think it's important to say that we have taken the security of the solution very, very seriously. You have to explicitly define who has remote access. So just signing up for our cloud service doesn't entitle everybody to have remote access. We still bound you by all the permissions that you have. Very easy also to enable or disable cloud services. So for some reason, you want to suspend remote access, there's a simple slider that kind of suspends remote access. So we really thought about the security, making sure that end users are still fully in control of their system and who has access to it. And some of the benefits is, the setup and registration is pretty easy. We just step through that. The process of creating an account and registering a deployment through the desktop client. What's great is the solution is hardware agnostic, so you can use virtual machines, you can use other hardware. You're not forced to use Salient hardware to take advantage of Salient Cloud services. You are required to be on Complete View version 7. That is the only hard requirement. And there's this really expandable connection request process, because we understand there's just so many different ways for end users and integrators to be related to each other. In some cases, end users have more than one integrator, and we just wanted to make it very easy to express those relationships in our product. And so we had a chance to look at that as well. And what's great is, a lot of this is the ability to leverage existing clients, web, mobile, desktop clients, true kind of cross-site, cross-server scalability. I can pull up views from cameras that exist on more than one recorder at more than one location. It's a great way to do secure remote access, both for integrators and for end users, without having to burden IT. So with that, we're now going to switch over to talking a little bit about what's coming up in Q1 2023. So really excited about some of the improvements that we're going to be making. And today we're going to focus largely on the improvements that are going to Complete View. Separately, sometime in the new year, we'll do a similar session that kind of covers some of the exciting enhancements that we're making to cloud. But for today, I'm going to focus on the Complete View version 7 enhancements coming into Q1. And really, there are 4 major things that we're doing. And I know some of these have been hotly requested for some time. First thing that we're doing is making it really easy to move or delete cameras. We know that's been a kind of a sore point for some time with Complete View, where if you reorder your cameras or if you delete a camera, it can cause a bit of a mess in the recorded history for a camera when you go back to do search and playback. And we've made some enhancements. And so coming in Q1 is an update to version 7, where you can now move or delete, reorder or delete cameras to your heart's content, and it won't mess up the recorded history. I'll be able to actually showcase this. I've got a beta system set up to actually showcase this. Next thing that we did is, this has been another hot request. A version of this capability existed back in Complete View 4.x, and we're excited to bring this back. But it's a little bit different in how it's being done in version 7. But we've now introduced a feature called Web Views, and they allow you to access HTML5 content directly from Complete View. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. I've got a bit more detail on this, and I'll actually demonstrate this as well. And what's awesome is that this is great for situational awareness. So you can have like the weather radar up, or maybe a news feed up alongside your live view. You can also certainly use it in a playback mode and have more advanced, analytics or analytic dashboard experiences that are directly in the product in the web view that make it easy to leverage, especially technology integrations, without having to leave Complete View. So it's great for these third-party technology integrations, great for situational awareness. So we'll be able to demonstrate these first two items right now. The other two are still in flight, and we'll be able to kind of showcase this a little bit closer to launch time, so sometime in the new year. But there's some really major enhancements we're making to our playback experience. So just enhancements that improve the VCR controls, smooth video scrubbing, reverse playback, actually making the playback speeds behave, I'll say, a lot more performantly. So if you want to do 2x or 4x, speed on playback, the ability to do stuff like that. And also just overall some minor usability enhancements, how the timeline itself looks, how the interactions feel, how you actually select clips for to put them to the export queue or to trim them. All these little enhancements at the end of the day add up to making it much easier for investigators to zero in on the clip that they're looking for and to kind of get that right. So major playback enhancements. Related to that, we've also put a lot of effort into better supporting camera events and analytics. And so this is all being done primarily over OnVIF. Certainly, we've got a long pedigree of working with native device drivers. But in this first go-around, we really want to focus on OnVIF as building a really good baseline of camera support across all the different manufacturers that are out there. And so some of the improvements really come down to more reliably capturing and storing events generated by cameras. And one of the innovations really is disassociating camera events from clips that we record on disk. Another way to say that is, today Complete View is built on this notion of when a motion or alarm event comes in, we always necessarily turn that into a separate little clip. And so we're taking a big step forward in just collecting all this really great data that cameras are producing, and really we're looking to expand that to things besides cameras, to be able to hold that information independent of the recording schedule, and to make it easy to associate or filter down any available video based on the timestamp for the event that we got, the start and stop time. So some really great work there. Again, something we'll be able to showcase in the new year. But these are some of the really exciting things that are all slated for Q1. A lot of this is in active development, and some of these we can showcase here in a moment. One thing I want to do is talk a little bit about these web views. So how we put this together is it has really the same workflow and feel as other views or maps. So you can organize them into regions, kind of where they show up and how they look and feel is kind of like views or maps. But there are a couple of permissions that are very specific to web views. So the ability to allow operators to access navigation controls, forward, back, refresh buttons, the ability to see or not see the URL. So once a web view is configured, you can't change the URL as an operator, but just seeing the URL. And then audio, having audio come through or not. And in the user interface as an operator, similar to a view or map, it is now possible to show or hide the web view panel. And so we're going to do a quick demonstration here. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so the first place I'll start is in live view. And what we'll notice is I've got some web views already set up. And let's actually just maybe go over to the weather one. And what you'll notice is this is just a web view that allows me to understand what my local weather is like. So I'm just part of that situational awareness story. So here we are looking at what's happening up in the Dallas area. But this is how web views show up. It's possible to pop these things out. I'm only sharing one monitor, so normally I could drag this onto a separate monitor. So this is the experience in live view. You can resize it, you can move it around just like you would a map or a kind of this event and video tiles that we've got set up down over here. Now there's a similar experience in playback that's meant for a little bit more of an immersive experience. So you'll notice that it says web views up over here. I can click into web views. And this creates more of a full screen experience. It's also possible for me to pop out any of these web views if I'd like. But again, we've got some analytics partners that we work with. So Sensors has great dashboards that I can see, and I can pop this out. And so this is what allows me in playback to have a more immersive experience. Now let's go over to configure, because here you'll notice that for client view access, have the ability to manage web views and the permissions. And also, more importantly, this is where I'd be able to manage these types of settings, such as the ability to access the navigation buttons, whether I see the URL or not, and whether it's available in live view or in playback or in both, like we just saw. So that's a little bit of a crash course on web views. And again, these things get managed just like other views. So if I had to set up one of these, the configuration, I give it a name, I give it a URL, I can enable or disable audio, I can preview it. So that's kind of how easy it is to set these things up. Last part I wanted to showcase in our demonstration, and then we'll be wrapped up, is the feature on being able to move or delete cameras. So to do that, we're going to go into one of our recorders here. We're going to switch out of web views a little bit and talk a little bit about cameras. So here, I've got a list of cameras, and I guess to set this up first, let's go back to playback, because we're going to look at this camera ID 3, and the name of the camera is camera 2. And you'll notice that I've got some search history from 12/13. I've got some clips and some motion, and so this is the recorded history for it. And it's set up as camera 3. Now, if I go to configure, and I take this camera 83 that's called camera 2, and I decide to move it up. So I just moved it up. So ID 2 is camera 2, and I hit save. So I've saved this config. I've moved a camera. I could have deleted one as well, but I decided to move one. And I go back to playback. You'll notice that this intelligently switched to this camera 2. If I perform that search, and it's thinking through it, you'll find that I have the exact same recorded history, that same motion clip we had with people walking around, and I'm doing that as, hey, I want to search this camera. And so we were able to preserve all of the recorded history, even though we moved the ordering of the camera. And so really quick demonstration there. That concludes the key demos on web views and being able to reorder cameras. So at this point, we're going to check the Q&A box, and then we're going to be wrapping up. So let's take a quick peek at the Q&A that's come in. All right, cool. A nice bit of Q&A. You just need to scroll to the top. So there's a question on upgrade. If I have a version 4 system, would I have to upgrade that to 5 or 6 and then upgrade again? Yes, unfortunately, if you're on version 4, or really if you're not on version 6.1.2 or newer, then from wherever it is you are, you have to first get yourself to version 6.1.2 or newer, and that can be a one-step process. So either from version 4 or from any version 5 or 6.0, you can get to 6.1.2. And then from there, you can take advantage of the migration utility. You can take advantage of the cross compatibility that we've done, et cetera, to phase that upgrade to version 7, make that kind of an easier step. So that's, and certainly if you want to do it all at once, you certainly can. But yeah, you have to first get to version 6.1.2 or newer if you're not already there, and then you can take advantage of all of the easy upgrade capabilities that we built in. All right. So another question on being able to kind of move licenses between servers. So what I showcased with the license distribution utility is more about retrieving license information and pushing license information, such as adding cameras, being able to add new feature keys, for example, to turn on new versions or capabilities such as storage pools. Certainly, you could leverage this ability to push and pull licenses from the license distribution utility, conceivably to manage updates to license counts, but that's probably not kind of the design or intended use. We are working on some capabilities, and our thinking is really to bring this through the cloud, where we can allow easier license management, including moving licenses around more easily, and really thinking about doing that from the concept of a site. But absolutely well understood use case. There's some work on our end to make enhancements to tools like the license distribution utility, maybe bake them into something like that cloud interface where you can see recorders and license counts. Then make it a more seamless experience to add, remove, move licenses around. Can you upgrade a license key without can you apply a license key without upgrading to version 7? Absolutely. The correct order of operations is that you would first get all your license keys set up and then perform the upgrade so that the system is properly licensed after the upgrade. When you apply something like a 7.1 license to a system that is not on 7.1, it'll say that it's an unknown key. Perfectly okay, because the version 6 system doesn't know about version 7. And then once you perform the upgrade to the recorder to version 7, it'll say, oh, okay, I see, this is my version 7 feature key. I'm good to go. What else do we have? We'll do one more question. So great question on Salient Cloud. The Salient Cloud services offer archiving for recordings. Whoever asked that has great vision here. It is one of the enhancements we're working on our roadmap for cloud in 2023, the ability to store clips and to make it really easy to share clips. So evidence storage and evidence sharing is how we're thinking about it, or clip storage and clip sharing. So that's an enhancement that's coming soon, and part of our investment in Salient Cloud as we look at our 2023 roadmap. I know we're kind of at time. I really appreciate everyone who's taking the time to dial in today. Just as a reminder, we're going to be following up with people who are winners of our $200 gift cards directly over email. So thank you all, and we'll catch you at the next demo series webinar.